All right, howdy, folks. Farmer Devin here. Today, unfortunately, I do not have great news. Uh, so, our duck operation was going really well through the raising, but when it came time to slaughter, everything went to shit, basically. So, to start with, we had ordered a scalder to try to make plucking a little easier. There was basically some employee issues with the company we ordered from, so the scalder ended up late, didn't show up until halfway through processing. Um, and to be honest with you, it didn't make the magical difference I was hoping for. It helped a little bit being a little more consistent, having a thermostat, but then I also had issues with that that I'm going to have to address. The thermostat wasn't quite holding temp within the 2 to 3 degree range that it was promised. So it took us basically, I think it was like 6 days, 5 or 6 days. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, 6 days to process, which was just a pain in the ass. The ducks have always been kind of difficult to process, but yeah, it didn't go super well on that front. And of course, we, had the birds in the ice chests and tried to keep them as cool as we could. Before we got to processing, the day that we were setting up the processing line, I was an idiot and I caught my field on fire. That burned down about an acre, cost us a day. So we got that put out, and then finally we were able to get to processing while the weather wasn't agreeing with us. So the first couple days weren't too bad, but by the end of the 6 days that we were processing, it was in the 100-degree temp range. It was, high double digits, low triple digits for temperature, which obviously is not the best for managing a processing line. But still, to that point, I think we did okay. However, even with the high temperatures, as we began to hang the birds in the cooler, I think that the high temperatures just meant that the cooler was not the temperature it should have been. Anyway, yesterday, being Wednesday, I can't remember the date, but basically yesterday, I started pulling birds out to butcher and package. In the midst of that, I realized that my bags that I had ordered for the birds were supposed to show up yesterday, and so I got on my phone to see, like, what time today can I expect them. Well, there's an issue with the shipping, and so now they're not going to be here till next week, and we didn't have enough bags. So I was like, all right, another headache, but we'll push through it. Well, as I started butchering and pulling birds out of the cooler, getting the final pin feathers off, because there's always more after hanging, I realized that there was a couple of birds that had some mold in them. And I am not in the business of getting anybody sick. That's not what we do here. So I took the time to research a little bit. I've heard of people hanging hanging deer and beef and stuff like that and having mold in the cavity and considering it good to eat still. So I thought, okay, well, before throwing this out immediately, let's do some reading and see if maybe, this is something that's to be expected. Maybe there's different kinds of mold that I can think are okay. It was a white fuzzy mold, so possibly, a lot of the times white mold's not such a bad thing. So I started looking, and well, there are a lot of people that dry age duck, especially wild game hunters and stuff that are doing a small number of them. I was able to find a paper, not necessarily a research paper. I think it was an article more, is what I would describe it as, but it did cite some research papers. And essentially, duck needs to be hung at a very specific temperature of 34 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit. And with the high temps we had and the cooler that we were using, that didn't happen this year. They were too warm. Plus, I think when I walked into that cooler to add more duck at the end of the night, there was a lot of hot, humid air that would come in. There was also a leak from the condenser that happened earlier in the week, and we got that dealt with. But anyway, at the end of the day, from my reading, there was a number of potential pathogens that could have been infecting the duck based on my physical observations, so smell, sight, textures, things like that. I'm not certain any of them are bad, but I'm certainly not certain that they're all good. And so I had to make the hard decision after doing some reading and after spending somewhere between 8 to 10 grand or more on getting this batch raised up and buying the scalder and getting ready for this year and being excited for a good year because the raise went so well. We had pretty much a full batch of 150 birds. I had to make the hard decision to condemn the whole batch. So I'm down here. I built a new compost bay because our old one up on the hill, which I will turn and point to here, you can see it right there above my pinky, is really full, and it's time to build one anyway. This might not be our permanent location for a compost bay, but essentially I have this cattle panel here, and I have two 8-foot by 8-foot bays that I'm going to build. I only need the one today, so that's the only one that's built. But all of our beautiful duck, every one of our 150 gorgeous ducks that we spent so much time processing, are now going to get the zip ties removed from them so there's no plastic, and then go into this compost pile in the center where they will then be covered by at least a foot of bedding and high carbon organic matter, and then left to sit until essentially our plan with these compost bins, these are our gut piles, our new gut pile. The way I run these is I'm going to continue to fill them until they're completely full, and then they will get marked on a date, and it'll be 2 years of composting before they then get integrated to tree lines and the like. But yeah, it's not a good day on the farm. I don't know what this means for the future of the business. We probably won't be going to the markets this year. I have some eggs and some egg customers. They're still purchasing our soy-free eggs from us, and I do a compost collection service. And other than that, we've got nothing. So I guess it's a lot more time on the rig and doing something else to earn money, but this was a bad year. Anyway, thanks for watching. It's been about 8 minutes of explanation of just how terrible the year went, and I hope your day and your year is going better than the way the ducks did for us. But hey, at least we did see some recovery on the pasture. So I mean, there was some silver linings to all this. It just, unfortunately, the end result is that I'm burning a lot of money and putting all of this beautiful food, potential food, into a compost pile, and it won't be going out to customers. So thank you for having supported us as long as you have, if you have been a customer, and for watching. And well, we'll talk to you later, hopefully about something better, I guess.